Now, if there's one thing there's plenty of nowadays, it's pedals. There's only roughly like 15 million ones to choose from. So this video is definitely geared more towards beginners, but maybe if you're a more experienced player, you might get something out of it too. But if you have experience buying a lot of different pedals, maybe leave a comment down below some mistakes that you've made that you're like, oh, I bought this pedal, totally did not need it. I actually needed this one, and I just didn't know it at the time. So I think that could be really helpful to a lot of players who are just trying to figure out what pedals do I even want to get. And I want to add in here that this video is not sponsored or associated with any of the brands that I'm talking about. I'll have links down below that you can check out the pedals if you want to, but it's not sponsored by any of these guys. These are just my personal pedals that I like. First things first is you got to know about your amp. Now, amps are, well, obviously crucial. They're kind of important, right? But they are going to potentially work really well with the pedal or not so well. Sometimes amps just don't work the best, you know? It doesn't matter if it's tube, digital. I do find a lot of the digital, like the Katanas, all that kind of stuff, they don't take pedals the best, or at least the ones that I use didn't. I add this really weird high end to the pedal that's not normally there. Tube amps seem to really respond best to pedals, but not all tube amps are the same. You know, I have my orange Reverb 50. I find that I don't like to use pedals with that amp. It colors the pedal in a way that I just don't like. But then I have something like my Marshall Origin, which is, you know, a significantly cheaper amp, and it takes pedals so good. It just kind of like has all those pedals right in that sweet spot. So you've got to decide, you guys not decide, you have to determine what kind of amp you have. And also, for one, does it have distortion? Are you going to be using the amp's distortion, or are you wanting to get that from pedals? Today we're going to be focusing on two main areas, distortions, and then of course delays and reverbs. And there's all these other effects. I know there's a lot of people like, what about filters? What about, yeah, yes, those are all really important too. It's just a video would be an hour long. So distortions, to start off with, I think that there is no such thing as a bad distortion. You know, there's just bad situations for particular sounds. Some distortions have a very particular sound. I recently did a video where I used this little Fender amp back there. I think it's back there. There it is. And horrible sounding amp by all means, but it was the perfect tone for that situation. So when I've thought of distortions or just gainy goodness, there's three main things I think of. Overdrives, distortions, and then fuzz pedals. Overdrives, I typically think of those being paired with an already distorted amp. Distortion pedals, a lot of times, they're standalone situations where maybe your amp doesn't have any distortion and you use like a high gain pedal like the Rev or the Plexi Drive or something like that, and then you have fuzz pedals. Fuzz pedals to me are the most unique. You pretty much always know it's a fuzz as soon as you hear it. And I think that fuzz pedals have a very love-hate relationship. Like, some people cannot stand fuzz pedals. Most people like distortion and overdrive. But when it comes to fuzz, you get this real, you know, line in the sand situation. Again, I think they're some of the most unique sounding pedals of the distortion genre. Maybe not the most versatile. I know there's fuzz face and a Strat. You roll the volume down, you can get some really amazing tones out of it. Typically, a lot of fuzzes are real loose sounding. They're not tight. Like I said, I don't use a lot of fuzz for chords. If you're thinking like you want Metallica, Pantera, like these heavier, higher gain sounds, fuzz is really not going to be the end all for you with that kind of stuff. It's a little bit too loose. You're going to want higher gain pedals, and you're going to want something that can either tighten up your amp to get it real nice and chunky like those guys, or modern metal. To me, my favorite pedals were the ones that were real simple to use and kind of bridged a little bit more of the gap. But one of my favorite ones is the breakdown pedal that I play in here. I always just liked how simple and straightforward it is. It's based off of like an old Jimmy Page pedal that he used, so of course I like it for that reason too. But you get this kind of like overdrive sound, you get like a medium gain, and then it gets fuzzy. So I like pedals that can kind of like cover the gamut. Sometimes you need, you know, like the fur coat, you know, the fuzz that I'm using here, or the Demogorgon. I'm not sure if I played that one or not, but the Demogorgon has a real nice sounding fuzz, but it's not something you want for everything. So you want to make sure that you know what you're doing with it. So to kind of put a bow on all this distortion talk, again, it comes back to your amp. Know how much gain does your amp have? Are you going to be relying on that, or do you not like the way your amp sounds and you're going to be focusing on a pedal? I think distortion pedals, medium, high gain would be a great place to go for that. If you really like the way your amp sounds and you're just wanting it to have a little bit of extra push, extra distortion, then overdrives. That's really where you got to go with that one, because it's going to kind of keep the heart and soul of your amp, but you're going to get that extra little 10%, or maybe for solos you want to boost on it or something along those lines. And if you're looking for something that's way more radical, you don't want it to sound anything like your amp, fuzz pedals are great for just all kinds of special moments that are just going to be like radical sounding. Now, delay and reverb pedals are another one that I love. Possibly my favorite effect ever is delay and reverb. And they're not all the same. You know, you might just be like, ah, just get any delay, any reverb pedal. And it's like, nope, they definitely don't do that. Don't approach it that way. Because for one, for me, I love the big ambient style delays. Now, the ambient style delays, like the ethereal. The ethereal is one of my favorite pedals that, well, just ever. You know, it was one of my favorite ones Wampler ever made, but also just one of my favorite pedals in general. It's very simple. I remember a buddy of mine's like, oh dude, sell that pedal, get this one, it does so much more. And I kind of remember thinking, I was like, I don't want it to do more. I think delays and reverbs, you really run the risk of option paralysis, just option overkill. Because sometimes I don't want it to do more. I want it to do this one particular thing, and I just want it to do it really, really well. So the ambient stuff, which is a delay and a reverb that the ethereal does, I love it. You can do this on other things like my collider. My collider is probably like my daily driver delay. Like it just kind of does it all. And it's one of those pedals that does more. It does a lot. I think that for a lot of people, it's probably potential option overkill. But for what I needed, kind of here, putting it in the main loop of my amp switcher, it worked perfect. And as great as the ambient thing is, and I love it, it doesn't work all the time. You know, I find that the ambient stuff is not the best suited for distortion. It works really, really good with clean. But if you are looking for more of that traditional, you know, kind of just overdrive distortion, there's all kinds of great ones. The Panther Cub is a really good one. My Collider is kind of like my main daily driver. My main delay drive. Oh, dad jokes. They're everywhere. You could do something like the Carbon Copy. I used to have the big one, but I left it at NAMM one year and never saw it again. And you also can't count out the classic, like the TC, the Hall of Fame. What's their Flashback Delay? Those are so crucial. They're super affordable for one, and they just sound great. Those were my main ones for years. I didn't even bother really like diving into anything else, and then I kind of got the delay bug. But like I said, you don't need one of these that does 15,000 different things. Get one that just sounds good, that works well with your workflow, and you're gonna be set. And that's all she wrote. Woo! Finger guns are back. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Like I said, leave comments down below with pedals that you would recommend for a beginner, maybe ones you would suggest them stay away from so they're a little bit more experienced. Lots of different suggestions you can throw out there. If you would, like the video, subscribe. I really appreciate all the support on the channel. And I'll see you all later. Have a good rest of your day. Play your guitars. Woo!